Good morning. Welcome back into Wake Up America. We continue to be focused on the crisis at the southern border as migrants continue to cross the border unabated.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. Yesterday, Kansas Congressman Jake LaTurner telling John Bachman now that the House Oversight Committee is investigating FEMA's use of taxpayer dollars to fund non-governmental organization support of illegal immigration.
Joining us now for more, former CBP Commissioner and senior law enforcement analyst Mark Morgan, and here with us on-set business and political commentator, Newsmax columnist John Burnett. Great to have you both on. Mark, we'll start with you. You were just in El Paso, Texas. What'd you see down there about 10 days removed from Title 42 being rolled back?
A continuation, Rob, of what we've seen for the past 27, 28 months, a complete disaster. We are continue to be in the throes of the worst border security crisis we've seen in our lifetime. Excuse me, and every aspect of our nation's safety and national security is being impacted. And to your point about FEMA-sponsored NGOs, I want to be very clear. I also worked for the FBI for 20 years. This is a pure Ponzi scheme. FEMA, which has funding to in part to respond to natural disasters, are funneling those funds to to non-governmental organizations that are facilitating our open border crisis. Yet they refuse to say it's a crisis, but they're using the agency that's in charge of responding to crisis in our country.
Yeah, John, later today, Tammy Nobles will speak to the Judiciary Committee. So her daughter was 20 years old. She was autistic and was allegedly killed by an MS-13 gang member after coming into the country illegally. So he had lived in the same house. She had rented a room. He then moved in and rented a separate room. She worked 2 jobs, came home from her overnight shift, went into her room. He then allegedly strangled her. Look, this is not the first time we've heard a mom testify. I've talked to a mom who lost both her sons to fentanyl. We continue to hear this. At what point will the president take action and say this is a crisis and we need to stop this?
Well, first, in order to actually acknowledge that it's a crisis, you have to admit it to yourself. And we've seen whether it's President Biden or any member of his administration or many Democrats on the left, they've refused to call it a crisis, and they refused to acknowledge MS-13. We have an issue right here in New York. It was pervasive in Long Island, right? And we've cleaned it up to some extent, but it's still a problem. So this problem is not going to go away as long as our southern border is porous. So we need to make sure that we take this national security issue in crisis, if you will, seriously. And, voters need to take it to the ballot box in 2024 and make this a 2024 presidential election issue.
Mark, any surprises with how the media has covered this when Title 42 is being rolled back? Wouldn't you know it? CNN, they had reporters down there. MSNBC had reporters down there. Now here we are a week and a half later, and the story's gone away. Is this a big issue in 2024?
Look, I think he's absolutely correct. It is. And here's why. I think America is having somewhat of awakening. We're still not there. But, the catchphrase that's very accurate, that every state is a border state. We've talked about it many times over the past 27 months, that what happens at our border doesn't stay at our border, that drugs coming across are coming to every major metropolitan city throughout this entire country, the criminals coming across, the risk to our national security threat. I think people understand that illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. It pulls resources off. We hand operational control over the cartels so they can exploit it and, again, jeopardize our nation's safety and national security. I think the American people are waking up. I think it is going to be a major issue in 2024, as it should.
And I think Mark would agree with this in terms of many people are experiencing the inflationary climate, right? Killing their household budgets. And at the same time, they're hearing stories that veterans and other homeless individuals are not getting the services that they need, let alone being kicked out of housing for illegal aliens.
Yeah, they're 50.
I mean, people are fed up and are tired of this. And I think it's going to all come to a head, whether it's you look at it from a national security perspective, an economic issue, a safety issue. All these issues will be front and center when we're
John,
talking about the border.
I agree with you there. I think that the media covering this a la carte 2 weeks ago, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can let the rest of the country know there's a crisis down there, then abandon the story.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think people know about this story. They're going to want to know more about it as we get closer to the election. It's going to play a bigger role.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, I want to pivot now. Tomorrow marks 1 year since the Uvalde massacre. I can't believe it's been a year. You're a senior law enforcement analyst. What do you hope that folks have learned from this past year?
Yeah, it's a simple, straightforward question, Allison, but it's a complex answer. First, I think there's some obvious ones that there's no such thing as too much training. We have to be and should be and need to continue to be committed to rigorous, ongoing training. And not just for the responding law enforcement officers, but for the command staff in those law enforcement agencies, as well as school administrators. We also have to have that same I think, equal commitment and rigorousness with respect to hardening targets and having those conversations across the board. But I think the most important thing is we simply have to stop politicizing this. If Uvalde means anything, if we're going to learn anything, that we have to stop the false narrative that removing a single tool is not going to prevent the next school shooting. It's a very complex and complicated issue. It's going to take a complex and very complicated set of solutions, including mental health and including communication among school administrators, law enforcement, mental health, and parents. And where does that accountability play as well?
Yeah, we don't hear the president talk about the mental health crisis when these things happen. It's just about guns. Mark Morgan, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much, John Burnett.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you, John.